previous year, you guys weren't that good in short yardage in the red zone. Like, is that a concern going into this year at all?
It's a focus. It always is a focus, though. And we have to decide what the things are this year that we're going to do to make sure that we convert. Like you said, situationally, overall, I think we were above average in third and long, third and medium, and short yardage in terms of the national average. So we always want to be in the top 20. And so, yeah, I mean, these are all the situations. We're really working on situations quite a bit in this camp because of the first game, because of some of the new guys. And so, yeah, I mean, that's, we got to put our packages together. And that's one of the things that we're looking for by the end of the week. We want to have our identity. That doesn't need to be in stone, but we at least want to have an idea. The players can tell us what we're doing and what our identity is coming out of this week.
Austin? Ryan, it seems like you got maybe some good news on Edric. When do you think he'll get back out there, or is he already back out to practice?
We think he's going to be involved with the team drills here within the next 48 hours, if not tomorrow, then the day after. But had another good day today, so yeah, it's good to see him moving around. And he was limited today, but I think he'll be ready to get in these team drills pretty soon.
Spencer Holbrook?
You obviously hate to see a guy like Edric go down, but how much is this opportunity for
Yeah.
those other guys now that he's not in there right now to get those reps that you probably, quite honestly, need?
Well,
from those guys?
I think it's important for everybody in the entire program to understand that there's a certain, when you get into the second week of preseason camp, you're getting closer and closer to this first game, and guys have to understand that, if they've been to starter level, take a guy like Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles. I mean, they've played football before. They know what it looks like. They know what it's like to be a starter. For guys who are stepping into this role for the first time, that's a new responsibility. And so they have to be able to understand that it takes a lot of work and training to get yourself ready to take on the majority of the plays, but not only take on the majority of the plays, but perform. And so everybody's got an opportunity to do that, to be thrust into that role in bigger roles than they had previously. And so when someone goes down in practice, it forces you to really step up in a lot of different ways. So, to your point, when someone goes down in camp, other guys have to step up. And then, you got to take a hard look in the mirror to figure out, okay, like, what do I need to do to be at starter level here? Because if you get to be at starter level, we'll play you, whether it's in the rotation at defensive line or another position. But you have to earn those opportunities. And so the more opportunities these guys have to step in those roles, they got to take advantage of them.
Right here to the right, Adam King.
Coach, you've seen the quarterbacks now for a few practices. What are your thoughts? How close are they together, or is it starting to separate?
Yeah, no, they both have had good moments and moments where they're growing. The competition continues. But I will say that I've been pleased with the progress. We're not where we need to be. But if they continue to learn from the mistakes they're making and continue to grow off the plays that they're doing well and moving the offense and taking care of the football, then it's going to go right down to the wire. But ultimately, they got to take care of the football. I'm seeing growth for sure. I'm seeing great attitudes, great work ethic. The practices have been intense just across the board. I think they're doing a good job of leading right now. Now, where it goes here by the end of the week will be critical. This is kind of, I think Coach Guerreri said it's moving day, moving week, like it is in the PGA Tour, and that's kind of this week. So it's moving week.
Second row, Joey Kaufman.
What you mentioned sort of like taking things for the quarterbacks taking very long. Where I guess are they in as far as chemicals?
When you take as many reps as you do and you're in practice every day, I can make a cut up of 10 that will look bad, and then I can make a cut up of 30 that look really good. So we're in camp flushing through all those. I think when you get more of a body of work, then you can start to identify trends as opposed to one-off situations. A guy slips, maybe the protection wasn't good, maybe someone jumped the route on defense. All those things come into play when you're in preseason camp. So, I've seen these now long enough to know that we need to play through it and let these guys get a body of work before we start making hard decisions on that. But again, there's been a lot of positives.
Right next door, Patrick Murphy.
Ryan, you talked about Austin versus going back to last season.
Yeah.
Why does he make sense at right tackle?
Well, first off, when you look at his size compared to the guys we've had in the past, he has plenty size. When you look at his athleticism, he's athletic enough and his strength is that way. So I've gone through it with Mick and with Tyler to see, Does he have enough length? Does he have enough size to play the position? The answer is yes. And he was very comfortable there in the spring. So we're seeing some things out of him, this offseason in terms of leadership, just taking on, a great voice in that room. He was an Iron Buckeye. So all these things are leading us to believe that he can be our left tackle moving forward. But, or Austin? Yeah, so he's getting work at left right now. Yep. And but now, again, primary position, secondary positions, these things are all into play. But we believe that he can do that. He can play left tackle for us. We certainly know he can play guard. Ethan, Phil, those guys are all playing. Ian Moore. So those guys are rolling and getting a lot of reps. You guys saw in the first 3 days we've been getting a ton of reps. Now we're on one field, going ones, twos, and threes. So kind of like with the quarterbacks, we'll let this thing play out and see where we're at. But I will say that Austin's, shown that he can do it. He can play tackle.
To the left here, Cameron Teague Robinson.
Ryan, kind of off that, if Austin's getting work at left, I'm assuming Ethan's getting work at both right and left, or?
Yep. Yeah, and he's also got a little work at guard too. Yeah, because as we know, it's a long year. We have to be able to do that, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we certainly learned a lot from coming off of last year. So we'll continue to cross-train, but it as time goes on, it's more like 80-20, then more like 60-40 maybe in the spring.
To the right here, Bill Rabinowitz.
Specifically about Julian, what have you liked about him and what
But yeah, for Julian, what do we like? There's a lot to like. He's very smart, makes quick decisions. The ball comes out of his hand. He's accurate. I think he's got good movement. He's got good quickness. He's got twitch, like in his lower half, but he's got like twitch in his upper half. You remember how like quick the ball used to come out of Dwayne's hands? It's similar with Julian. And so, and I think he's building more and more of a command on the field. So those are all reasons to like him, and he's improved. He wants to be good. He knows what it takes. And so those guys they're battling their tail off right now. And I think they're both, first off, they're friends, Julian and Lincoln, and then Tavian's, coming along too, and that room's growing. But I think they're all good for each other in a lot of different ways. Those guys, that has to be the best room in the country. That's the way we look at it. But to answer your question, those are the positives that we see out of Julian.
To the left here, Dan Hope.
Ryan, just going back to the offensive line, how do you feel about the overall state of where that position group is right now, both in terms of starters and depth?
Yeah, I would say we're still developing the starters. Depth, I feel good. I feel like we have guys, for the first time in a while where, you get into like the 8th or 9th or 10th guy, and you're like, well, I feel like that he's going to play for us this year. Maybe in the past we didn't quite feel that way. But the question is like, all right, well, how is this going to play out in terms of the starting five, and who's the 6th guy in? That's where all the competitions are right now. But the good news is we got a lot of guys to work with.
All right, we'll do 2 more. First one, Tim May.
Back in the previous century, when you were competing for the starting job at New Hampshire, what did you tell yourself every morning when you got up? What got you through, the
Good question.
competition? Because you want to be buddies with the guy, but you also want to beat him. I mean, do you think about what they're thinking about? You know what I mean, in these kind of situations?
That's a great question. When I think back on that, and one of my close friends to this day is one of the quarterbacks that was in that room, and you spend so much time together, and the easy thing when you're early on is to kind of hate the guy that you're going against, and then you spend so much time with them, they become your best friends. All that being said, you want to play. And when you're in high school, you're used to being the guy, and there's a certain level of comfort that comes with that. And when you're competing with somebody, you're kind of always looking over your shoulder, and that's not a great feeling, but it's a healthy feeling, because you know that you have to hold yourself to a certain standard. You're not allowed to have a bad day, and you certainly can't have bad plays. So when you're going through that competition, it's not a comfortable feeling, but that's okay. That's part of the process.
And we'll wrap it up with Doug Lamorese to the left.
And just go back to that. If I could talk to my former self in that spot, I would say, be the hardest worker, outwork the room, but control the things that you can control. Things like the team, commanding the huddle, commanding the line of scrimmage, your body language, your leadership. Like those things make a big difference. Probably more than just, being, 12 of 15 during 7-on-7, if that makes sense.
Who's that other guy, by
Oh, who are the guys in the room?
The guy you said you're still friends with.
Matt Casano's his name. Yeah.
Wrapping up with Doug Lamarice right here.
Ryan, sometimes you're in a spot where you have an established returning quarterback and there's not much question about who the starter's going to be, and sometimes you're in a spot like this with an open competition. Is there anything that an open competition into August is good for a team, good for a room, that there's positives in that, or is it just something you have to go through when you don't have the number one guy who's established?
Yeah, no, I think there's positives and negatives to everything. I think you can look at it that way. There's positives, I guess, to having an incumbent, but the positives of having a competition is that every day you got to bring it, and every day, you got to put your best guys out there to figure out who's making progress and who isn't. And guys are always on edge. They're uncomfortable. They're working at it. And I think that's healthy for the entire building.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.